So we just take a moment to just notice how it is now, knowing that conditions are such, things are temporary, and an hour from now could be very different. And if you're noticing any stress or tension from your day, you can just take a moment to just gently breathe that out on the out breath, just releasing so that you're not holding on to tension. And as you do so, you're just gently emptying out the day, letting go of what's extra. And we don't have to hold on to anything really. We can just allow sensations or thoughts to arise and gently flow out as well. They arise and pass. And we can rest in this flow, just letting life happen. Oh, it's like this right now. If there's a lot of tension for you today, you can just keep gently breathing it out, softening. But if there's more ease, you can just simply allow yourself to rest in the flow, letting sensation, energy, or any heat just carry you, like floating on a gentle river. just being with life unfolding. If any busyness starts, just gently breathe it out, allowing your system to relax. And when you're ready again, just noticing the flow. The flow of experience, inner and outer. So this evening, if you want to take some notes, you can grab a pen and paper, although we're not going to do quite the same exploration we did last time. So you can take a moment for that. And also, this is recorded, so you can always go back and reflect at a later time if you like. So this evening, we're going to focus on the last domain, the integrative domain this evening. And integration is a really beautiful thing. As it's well quoted, integration is more than the sum of its parts. It's not just throwing all the parts together. It's the idea of emergence, that the parts come together and something transpires to create something new, something beautiful. And so, the most famous example of emergence is water, H2O. So we have, 2 parts hydrogen, 1 part oxygen, and, these gases, they're gases, but bring them together in the right way, and suddenly you have something really amazing. You have water, which is a completely different thing. And then that goes on to have even more experiences, right? So you can have water, and under the right conditions, you can have gas. It can turn into steam. Under the right conditions, it can become ice. So there's this beautiful idea about emergence, that something beautiful can happen, and then it can even go on into something bigger and more beautiful. So in the integrative domain, this is where all the work that we've been doing with the domains and release work and essence all comes together and crystallizes into what becomes known as your true nature, living in your true nature. And by true nature, the way that Mark and I define it, a lot of times people use true nature to really describe essence. But for us, we feel really strongly that it's really important not to try to let go of being human. A lot of people try in their spiritual practices to try to transcend being human. I'm going to not be human anymore. And then things get really messy when their humanness comes back, right? So for us, it's more of an integration. How do we integrate? And so our true nature for us is the integration of our essence with our individual humanity. So you come with your own individual body, your own individual, temperament, history, favorite foods, your own individual fingerprints and DNA. And it's not a denial of that. It's essence, alive, awake, connected, integrated, so that there's this consciousness in the humanity. There's awareness of essence, and there's movement of essence, but it's still you. It's still me, which is really quite beautiful, because we don't want to just be carbon copies of each other, right? The world would be pretty boring with that. So in the integrative domain, there's 3 kinds of integration that we talk about. The first one is the integration of understanding. And integration of understanding means that at this point, you understand how a human works. A lot of people don't understand how a human works. And so, a lot of times I hear people have crazy ideas about how they're going to stop pain in their life, and they don't work. Like, okay, I'm in pain, so I'll just go get drunk. It's like, okay, that's actually not going to help a lot, right? It might numb your pain a little bit, but it's not going to make your life better. So this integration of understanding is understanding the idea of formations, that you come to understand, like, oh, there's formations. Oh yeah, I can see them. I've got them, right? That you understand and have touched into your own essential nature in whatever way you do that. So I can touch into that peace, that quiet, that inner being, that stillness, that joy, however essence shows up for you. And you understand about release work, that it's actually possible to release formations, and that you have an understanding, like, I can do this. I can go in and find that 4-year-old. I can release it. Essence is left. and I can rest in that grounded feeling of my own essential nature. When we have this understanding of how human beings potentially work, and there's lots of parts to human beings working, I'm just pointing out in the domain work, we have a shift in our mind. It opens our mind. We're no longer held hostage by our formations in the same way. We don't believe in them in the same way. So you might see your 4-year-old come up and go, oh, it's just my 4-year-old. Oh, that's my 15-year-old. So you're not beholden to the identification that I am the 4-year-old and I am suffering and there's no way out and life is hell. It's like there's been an opening in your mind, a shift in your mind, so something is not so truncated the way it used to be, which is really quite beautiful. That's an integration of this work. From there, we go into the second integration, which is where there literally is a shift of your identity. Because your mind is opening, there's a possibility of moving from my anxious old self and my ordinary mind, my depressed self, my addicted self, whatever I was believing in before. And there actually becomes a shift in perspective where one sits more in essence, one sits more in their true nature, one is open in their spiritual practice to bigger exploration of what it means to have a spiritual life. And so there's that shift in our identity. I like to talk about ordinary mind as being Maureen Inc., right? Susie Inc., Jim Inc. It's that shift from Maureen Inc. to my essential nature. What I like to call just Maureen, who Maureen was before she was incorporated with all the conditioning that was given to her. So it might be a simpler, I went from me Inc. just to me, just a simple me, who I was more like a child maybe. And then the third level of integration is when we take this integration that happens within us and we take it out to the world. And it starts to integrate into our family, into our relationships, into our community, with our children, with our dog and our cat, our work colleagues. Suddenly you realize you're showing up differently in the world, and the world is noticing. People are saying, wow, you seem less stressed, you seem calmer. What have you been doing? And this idea that these teachings, this awareness of coming into awareness of our psychology and how to work with it and how to be free of our old formations, that this actually can be on a community level. An example of that is what we're doing here, right? I'm taking these teachings and touching people that live in different parts of the country. And, they call a friend up and say, hey, you should come. This is kind of fun. And, all of a sudden it's like, whoa, it's kind of out there a little bit, right? Which is nice. For Mark and I, the beauty of this is what's the larger potential of that? What happens if this has momentum and we become, as humans, aware of our psychology and aware of this growth possibility? For instance, what happens if we have leaders who end up being in touch with their essence and they're releasing their formations, or scientists or people building our technology, politicians and parents? What kind of world do we create if you have parents who are more aware and they even know that their kids have essence? How awesome is that, right? So there becomes this ripple where it actually can become part of a conversation of the community, which is really beautiful. And then eventually, one of the things Mark and I dream about is when we start doing workshops with this, is what would it be like to have an essence-oriented conference? Like, you bring people together who are doing this work, who are aware of their own essence, who know how to release their formations, and you bring them together to work on a problem. Let's say you bring everybody together and say, what do we want to do about global warming? And imagine what a room full of people who can stop when they get activated, take a moment, go inside, go back to their hotel room and release some formations and come back. Imagine what it would be like to sit in a community or at work or at your school with people who know how to do this. This would be amazing. You would have people's essence and wisdom coming at the problem rather than their fear, their greed, their inner child who has to prove something. Right? So these are the layers of integration that can happen in the integrative domain. And of course, they take some time to do that. So, So I just wanted to name just for a moment, I'm not going to do a full exercise on this because I want to do a different exercise tonight, but what gets in the way of the integrative domain for us? And honestly, it's almost exactly the same things that get in the way of the spiritual domain. So a lot of times people have difficulty integrating into a new identity because they're afraid of what might happen, or I don't know. They're afraid of merger, those kinds of things. And so it's very similar fears at this level. So instead, what I find is that it's best to do this work that we've done, which is to find formations, release them, come into essence over and over and over and over again. And as you do that work, what happens over time is you stop being so identified with the formations. You start to really trust in essence. You trust in the rest. You trust in its ease. And this starts to feel like home. And so over time, what I find is that, I'll name it negatively and positively. The more work we do here, the more we come to really resolve or not be afraid of our hysteria inside, feeling ungrounded. We also work with lots of formations about not being good enough. And we also come into this idea that we could open our heart and love. And so I'll name them in that positive way right now. Over time, we become more grounded, right? We know in our essential nature, we are good enough. We know our inherent goodness. So somebody comes up and says, you're selfish, and you step back into essence and go, yeah, no, don't feel that at my core. That's not who I am. And we do open to more love, more belonging. And right there is where the transformation is easy to happen. That's where we become more integrated. So this evening, what I wanted to do was do an exercise with you, which is rather than talk about, our blocks and what's difficult, is actually to just taste a little bit of integration and how yummy it can be. So take a moment to get comfortable, and we'll just do a short sit here. And you can just start with just a couple of clearing breaths, just letting go of all those words. And if there's any tension or clinging to tension, just gently breathe it out on the out breath. Any stories or physical discomfort. And we're just going to take a moment to just empty out. And just noticing also to just check in for a moment with all the channels, your body, breathing out any tension there. Your mind, any busy or stressful stories. And also your heart, including your emotions. And then I invite you to take a moment to find the most comfortable breath. Just however your breath is most comfortable. And it might take you a moment to just settle into it. It's not a particular kind of breath. It might be a long breath or a short breath. Doesn't matter. Just whatever is most comfortable for you. And allow yourself to just notice the soothing. Just enjoy it. If there's discomfort in your body, you can just let that be over on the side and just focus on the comfortable breath. And then I invite you to bring some awareness of your body with this breath now. So you're actually doing a gentle whole body breathing, not working at it, but just bringing awareness of your body with breathing. And so again, letting it be comfortable. You may notice expanding and contracting of your back. Or the breath rolling up and down your torso in a gentle way. Or the rise and fall of your chest. Or simply in and out. Again, just letting it be comfortable. And comforting. And now taking a moment to notice the ease, the pleasantness that's here. Just that there's some pleasant. And allowing yourself to just dwell in that pleasant. Allowing pleasant. And you can let yourself dwell in this pleasant and ease, or let yourself be pleasant and ease. Letting this be totally natural. Being pleasant or being comfort. Oh, I'm remembering this part of me. I'm remembering this part of me. What if this is how I move through the world? This fullness, this ease. Just want to read a couple of quotes from people in their true nature. Agnes DeMille, to dance is to be out of yourself, larger, more beautiful, more powerful. This is power. It is glory on earth, and it is ours for the taking. This from a world-class chess player. Whenever I play chess, I have a general sense of well-being, a feeling of complete control over my world. This from Frank Lloyd Wright. It is now valiant to be simple, a courageous thing to even want to be simple. In fact, it is a spiritual thing to even comprehend what this simplicity really means. And from T.S. Eliot, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and to know the place for the first time. Just dwelling in this pleasant, oh, I'm remembering this part of me. So, touching into this place of pleasant is the place where there's no disturbance. There's no me ink, there's no fear. It's remembering, again, getting a taste of what it's like to be in true nature, to be integrated. Like, oh, I'm remembering this part of me. It's really important for people, particularly if you've known a lot of trauma or just pain in your life. Oftentimes we don't recognize it, but as soon as we go inside and we become mindful, we can notice a slight agitation that's always there. There's always this shake, or there might be a tremor, or there could be some fear. What if, what if, what if, what if, what if? It's almost like that tape is just playing all the time. And we come to think that this is what it's like to be me. This is how I have to live on this planet. And when we touch into mindfulness practices like the one I just did, where we go into comfort, we release, we touch pleasant, and we dwell there, or we become it, we have a moment where we're tasting who we are without all that agitation, who I am without fear. And it's giving a glimpse of our true nature, really quite beautifully. So this path that I've been just kind of talking about over the last few months is, it becomes both a path of discovery and development. So there's moments like this where we might go into pleasantness and we discover, oh, here's me not revving. Oh, here's me at ease. Oh, here's me at rest. A lot of people don't know how to rest or have a vacation or stop working. It's like, oh, this is a taste of me. not indirect, in kind of stress of some sort. And then we get to play with it. We might do that meditation a few times, and we start to discover what it means to let that pleasantness grow. What happens if it has no boundaries? We just get to start playing with it. What happens if I ground it into my body? Or I'm walking through the world breathing pleasant. I notice pleasant, I touch it, now I'm integrating it. So we start to develop ourselves into an integrated person. And so this becomes a path. We discover, we play, we explore, we expand, and then we hit some kind of formation that goes, I can't go there. That's too scary. I don't do intimacy, whatever it might be. And then we have to release. We found the formation, we release. There's more opening. We've discovered something, and now we get to play some more. And so it's just kind of this unwinding down through the formations. Yeah, I love this quote from Chinese culture. It's turtles all the way down, right? It's like it's one formation after another, after another. What's beautiful about this, though, is that the more you do, the more those three layers start to release on their own. So you start to become grounded. All of a sudden a formation comes up and you're still grounded because you've released so many. Or you start to know you're good enough and somebody gets in your face and says, well, I don't like the way you did this. You're not good enough, and you just smile and you're like, thanks for sharing, because I know I'm okay. I know I'm an inherently good person. And we start to love. I don't know, not all of us maybe, but most of us have this kind of inner block about fear and intimacy and love. We don't want to get hurt. And doing this work allows us to love again. It's like, oh, I can let go of those pains and fears and traumas, and I can love again the way I did when I was young. How beautiful. So hopefully you got a little taste of what it was like to be you without stress, without fear. Even if it was just for a moment, even if there was just a moment of pleasantness, and you were like, oh, wow, to be like this, awesome. And a little taste of your integrated self. So I was going through my notes tonight and I was looking for a particular quote, and I started going through just being contacted by all that we have gone through over these almost 18 months. And just to name some of the things, there was COVID. We started this in April of 2020 or late March, early April of 2020. There was COVID. There was being homebound together, right? There was COVID holidays. I couldn't go see my loved ones. Maybe we had to do Zoom or we just couldn't go see them, There was COVID in the White House. And what was that going to do if the White House got COVID, right? We went through a couple of weeks of that. There was also Breonna Taylor and George Floyd and Black Lives Matter. We went through that together. There was the election and January 6th. And we actually got to sit that night together, right? That was so powerful that we got to sit that night together. We went through the work of true success with finding about formations and domains and studying essence and experimenting with it and playing with it and doing release work. All the things that normally I would be teaching in a longer class, but conditions were such, we were just doing it Wednesday nights, And hopefully you felt held through this, There was a lot. We went through a lot in a year and a half, right? And hopefully the practices that I gave held you and supported you in keeping sanity and the unfolding that you were going through, and helped you feel grounded. That's my genuine hope. So I was just looking back thinking, wow, it's been quite a journey that we've been through. Really lovely to share it with you all and to take a seat together, to not lose our sanity, right? To not go there. So, so maybe I'll just open it for a few minutes. If there's, since it's our last sit for right now, if there's any questions that you guys have that are burning that you want to ask, we can take a moment for that. If there's anything, I don't want to leave anybody hanging. So, and you can just unmute yourself. So, yeah.
Maureen, I want to thank you so much for holding this space this last year and a half, and delighted that Sue turned me on to your Zoom spot.
Thanks.
It's really been a blessing, and I don't really have particular questions because I know there's recordings that I can go back and listen to. It feels like really deep work, and I have felt held through all this time. And I know you're writing a book and have, other things that keep you busy. Do you think that you'll come back to online teachings again? Or
Yeah, no, definitely. What I want to do is, I'm pretty close on the book. I'm pretty close. So it's been 9 years. It's been a long time, and it's almost finished. And then once that's done, and the book is about this work. It's about how to make this doable for ordinary people. Like ordinary people can touch mindfulness and this kind of work in themselves. Once that's done, my plan is to do both workshops and trainings in the work. And I would imagine that that would take the form of both online classes and some in-person stuff as well. And then probably feeling out where a sit, if a weekly sit feels like that's what's necessary. It's more like what works for people and what do they need, right? So, but yeah, no, I'm not going anywhere. I'm just I'm just gonna put my nose down and finish off some work. So yeah, but thanks. It's been
and,
wonderful.
and do you have a mailing list that you have
I
typically
do.
added people to? Because I want to make sure that I'm on that.
Yeah, so you can go to the website True Success for All and
Mhm.
get on the email list for that. And also I would suggest that one first. Um,
Okay.
and and then that way you can get on the MailChimp list. Else, any other questions or
Have you considered a book club
a
following
book?
your book?
Oh, wow. No, I had not thought of that, Rich. That could be really fun to do a book club. So, yeah, well, thank you. I'll put that in the cauldron and kind of stir that one up. I hadn't really thought about it. Yeah, that's lovely. Thanks. That's really fun. Yeah. And the nice part about doing workshops is that, everything I did here was just to give you guys a taste, right? It was just 5 minutes of, and imagine what it would be like if you had half a day to really kind of dive into your spiritual domain or dive into your cognitive fears and release them. Like, if we actually got to do the release part, it would be awesome. Then you feel the transformation right there. So that's what I'm looking forward to, is to be able to do that with people. Yeah. So. And also teach. I want to teach therapists and people that are, you know, trained in this kind of work, trauma work, those kinds of things, so that people can do it for other people as well, which would be really sweet. So, yeah. Um, Anybody else? Any other questions? Yeah, Catherine?
I just want to say that I felt really held, even when I haven't been with you guys, by
Oh,
this work, and I appreciate it a lot. It's really fun and accessible, and well, mostly fun. overwhelmingly fun, and then every once in a while some icky stuff, but that you've given us so many tools to deal with it.
Oh,
I also have to say that it keeps coming up for me, kids. Can we, and I've kind of been experimenting with it a bit, but I work in the schools a bit and I have a kid. And so I've sort of been playing with how to help kids access this
mhm.
so that we're not relying on just their parents to do it, so that people can start doing it from really young to be. I've always worked with kids and young people to help them recognize their comfort and
Mhm.
try to grow that, because it's a really useful tool in sport where I work a lot.
Mhm.
But I hope someday to have a bigger conversation with you about this, the
Oh,
kid thing.
yeah, no, I look forward to it. You know, I've been a child therapist for 30 years and actually I have done this work with children. They're just like, whoo, yeah, you know, they just like do it. And then I've also taught conscious parenting classes. And that's really empowering and beautiful when parents wake up to their own essence and then bring it home to their kids. It's like, oh my goodness, I'm seeing your essence now instead of my fear, you know, which is, you know, make sure you don't make mistakes and get lost in a New York alley somewhere, you know. I definitely will have a child part. I definitely will have a conscious parenting part to all this too. So, but I just gotta get the book out first.
Yeah, yeah,
Regular
yeah.
part. So, um, let me see. I want to leave you with well, a couple of things. One, you know, want to thank you for your support over the months. And if this work has touched you, moved you, inspired you, really, I greatly appreciate your support. Even though I'm not going to be here, I'm still going to be working. I'm working on the book, and any support that you give to help this work go out in the world is just really greatly appreciated. Yeah, I mean, it's been a love project for Mark and I, and we've put everything into it, and it's just, yeah, anything you can do to help it spread, help it move, help support us is really wonderful. So thank you, and thank you to those of you who have. So really, thank you. It just brightens my heart when somebody steps in with some support. I'm like, yes, we're going forward. So, um, and then I just want to leave you just with a story. I've offered it before, but I thought, what's an integrated story here tonight? What kind of captures what we've been doing? And so I want to share a story about Papaji, also known as Punjaji, and he was a Hindu teacher. And dearly loved by many spiritual teachers. And it's attributed to him, but I've actually heard the story attributed to other spiritual teachers as well. So the story goes that the great smart teacher invites a student in, and the student's like, I want to awaken, I want to be fully whole, and, you know, help me. How do I do that? And so the teacher lays out 3 golden figurines on a desk. And one is made of pure gold. One is a soldier, one is a monk, and one is a mother cuddling a child. And the teacher says, well, before we get started, what do you want to be? What do you want to be? And the student gets really tied up here. It's like, oh, what's the right answer? I got to get the right answer, right? So I want to be a soldier because that's strength, right? I want to be able to defend, and yeah, that would be no. Wait, no, I should be the monk because that's more holy. Yeah, I'll be the monk. I should be the monk. Let me be the monk, and then thinks about it for a minute. No, wait. The mother, that's compassion. I want to be compassion. Yeah, I want to be compassion. And just goes back. Well, maybe the monk, just does this for like 10 minutes. And the teacher's just watching. And the student's like, I don't know. I don't know which one to be, which I do. And the teacher just looks and says, if it were me, I'd be the gold. Yeah, I'd be the gold. So when you're in touch with your essence, you can be the soldier when you need to be, the monk when you need to be, the mother when you need to be, or the father when you need to be. when we're in our natural, essential nature, moment to moment, we flow and become whatever is necessary, whatever the world is calling for in that moment. And so I hope that you guys continue to play with this and be the gold. I'll give you a hint. It's in that pleasant, right? It's in the pleasant. It's not in hard work. It's not in beating yourself up. It's in this release and knowing yourself as your essential nature. So, if you have questions or whatever, you can always find me on my website, track me down, and I'm supporting people individually if they need it. So if something comes up, always feel free to reach out. So thank you for being on this journey with me. It's been quite a beautiful, exquisite, difficult, challenging, amazing time. And but mostly I think we're all sitting okay. So must have done something right? So take care, everybody. And again, thank you for your support. And uh, yeah, I'll send out an email when things look like we'll dive back in. So take care.